Hey guys, Drew here with you again. Today we're going over another introduction into Lightroom. This will be the second episode. So we're gonna get into some different aspects of Lightroom that we weren't able to touch on in the first introduction. So if you haven't checked out the first video, please go back, check it out. It gives you a little brief overview of how to import, how to select your photos, things like that, and then gives you quick tips on how to do simple edits to a basic photo. So let's just get into this one. These were a couple pictures I took of the family yesterday. We were decorating the Christmas tree, getting ready for the holidays. So if you can see, there's a few things that I don't particularly like about it. The photo's a little dark. It's a little underexposed. It's a little crooked. The colors, they're not really popping. The lights are, but everything else, it's sort of flat. So today we're going to get into how to adjust a photo. So A, that it sits up straight. B, adjust your exposure to the right setting. As well, with adjusting the exposure, sometimes the skin tones become a little flat, a little pale. So we might jump into a little bit of the tint or the temperature settings as well. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to come over here to this right menu over here. And if you can see, you have your basic tools as well. We went over this a little bit in my last video, but I'm going to come down here to lens corrections. This is the basic thing that I do at the beginning of most every single one of my photos. And I just come over here to the basic panel and I click enable profile corrections. That's going to take any of the bowling that might come right up here in the corners from the lens away. Remove chromatic aberrations. What that is sometimes, like outside, if you take a photo during during the day, you'll get hazing around like the hair and stuff and outline around the bodies. That just removes that. And as you can see, the photo is crooked. So if you come right down here to the bottom where it says upright, just click this little auto button. Ooh, well, that didn't work out. So that brings us to our next step. Sometimes it's not able to pick it up. If there's too much going on in an image or it's very compressed like this, it's not going to work. So we're just going to click off right there, and we're going to come all the way up here to this little box right here in the corner. So this is the crop toolbox. So we're just going to click it. As you can see, it brings up the squares, the image, yeah, whatever it may be. But it allows you to get this is where you're going to do all your crops and your adjustments to the angle of the photo. So we're going to have to pick a point, and the tree looks a little crooked, and this lamp over here looks a little crooked. So we're just going to take our angle tool, and we're going to move the angle of the photo so that it is vertical, and you just adjust it, forwards and backwards to the way you like it or where it fits best. And so that looks to be about right. So I'll just let go right there. And before you do anything, it'll allow you a quick preview of what's going to happen. As well, remember that this is going to cut out certain portions of your image. So if you don't want them cut out and you can live with the fact that it's a little crooked, then that's fine, don't do it. But if you like it, just go on over, hit enter, boom, there you go. That looks a whole lot better. But as well, we can also see that that's still messing up right here. This lamp is sort of messing up the angle of the photo. So I'm just going to go right back to the crop tool, and I'm going to come in here, and we're just going to move this over a little bit, remove the lamp from the entire image. My wife's foot, we're just going to take that up a little bit. I know she doesn't want her feet in there. And once again, we're going to click enter. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So as I mentioned earlier, the photo to me looks a little flat and underexposed. So to correct that, I'm going to go up here to the basic panel, and I'm going to go over here to my exposure setting. As well, you can always look at your histogram. This gives you a good sort of oversight of what's going on, and as I said, it's underexposed. So all of the darks, all the colors are over here in the darker section. So we're just going to go through and adjust that. So I'm just going to click on the exposure and we're just going to move it until it seems right. That looks pretty good to me, so we had to bump it about one stop over, a little over a stop, but bump it up a little bit. In the end, you're like I mentioned in the last video, you're not always gonna get your perfect histogram as some people would have it. They like to call it a perfect histogram where everything's sitting right here in the middle. This was taken inside at night. It's only going to get so bright. Another thing to look at is as I adjusted the exposure, I gained what the photography world likes to call noise. We'll zero in right here. See all those grains? Yeah. It's not the best thing to have, but I had to bump up the ISO because, like I said, it wasn't a well-lit area. So remember, sometimes you'll get a little noise. If you can live with it, it's okay. There's also a feature which we'll go through which can knock out some of it. It's not going to knock out all of it. As I mentioned in the last video, when you crank up the ISO, generally you're going to crank up the noise. It's just I had to suffer with it, and in the end I'm going to have to live with it, but we can see if we can edit that out a little bit. I also mentioned that sometimes you might get a little fluorescent look, a little pale in the face when you adjust the exposure. We can take that out with this temperature tool. It's almost like a white balance tool. Well, that's technically what it is. And you can either come over here and click the custom and put it where you want it. Like, let's just change it to cloudy real quick. Ooh, that's a little rough. So we're just gonna Command Z and knock that out. But you can just adjust it, mess around with the settings over here. Let's see. Why don't we try shade? Let's see where that gets us. Whew, a little too yellow. I don't think I like that. So let's back out of there again. And let's try daylight. It's a little bit better, but it's still just too harsh. So I'm just going to come over here to this temperature tool, and I'm just going to adjust it just a little bit. There we go. So we adjusted it just a little bit, just to get a little bit of the skin color back into there, a little yellow. The further to the right you move it, the more yellow the image is going to look. The further to the left, the more of a bluish tint you're going to get to it. So I seem to like that. That's working out fine for me. So now we're just going to go down to my shadows, and I want to crank up the shadows a little bit. This as well is going to remove some of the noise. It's going to hit more on the mids. So we're going to take that down a little bit. My highlights, I don't feel anything needs to, well, actually, yeah, let's crank up the highlights a little bit. I seem to like that. And then we're going to come down here to the whites. As stated in the last video, there's a little trick that I like to use. I like to hit the Option or Alt key, depending on if you're using a Mac or a PC. Currently I'm using a Mac, so we're just going to hit the Option key and then click my whites. I just want a little bit of the whites to show through. As you can see there, they're shining through just fine, so I'm going to leave that there. Now we're going to go down to the blacks, hit the Alt Option key, and I really like my blacks to show through. I don't know why, this is just me. To each their own. So there we go. That seems to looks a little bit better. Looks fine to me right now. As well, once again, just want to reiterate, everything that I'm doing here is just to get you into Lightroom. It's all in your taste, what you like and what you so choose to do. So this is just, like I said, this is just getting you to understand tools that Lightroom offers. I suggest you go out, mess around with it yourself, and fall in love with it as I have, just picking up on little nuances, little things that you like. So let's see. Now let's move down to clarity and vibrance. I think I am going to crank up the clarity a little bit. Let's see what we can do there. I think that just put a little too much in it, so I'm just going to X-nay that. If you ever want to get back to 0, just double click on the actual mouse right here on the little tool button right there, or you can just double click the word clarity and it will bring it back. So I'm not going to mess around with anything else in this basic section right now, to be honest. I think I like it where it's at. So just to go back over, we went over temperature, how to get a little more yellow or blue into it. It's basically adjusting your white balance. We did a little bit of the exposure, adjusted the highlights, shadows, the whites, and the blacks a little bit. And I think we're done in the basic panel with this one. So now I want to come down to my HSL and I want to mess around with the saturations a little bit. The colors, I really want my daughter's shirt right here to pop a little more and just have the colors a little more pronounced. We're just going to go through and adjust these a little bit. We're going to bring out the reds and see how that's already bringing a little more into it. You don't have to go all crazy with it and go boom. Just move it around just a little bit to where you like it. I don't think I'm going to mess with that. The yellows, I like them where they're at. Let's bring out the green a little bit. There we go. I think I like that. There we go. Blue for my daughter in the background. There we go. I think that's it. As well, you can come over here to luminance. This will brighten the picture up a little bit. You just take what you edited, and the highlights are really going to start popping a little bit. I don't think I really need to do much with it, but yeah, I'll have where the light's hitting, I'll have that a little more pronounced. But once again, I think I'm done there. So, but as mentioned before, you know, your saturation, this is just how much color, how deep and how rich and how vibrant the color is going to be. The luminance, it brings out the highlights to the colors. So where the light is hitting, it's going to make them a little more white, a little more pronounced, so that it just doesn't look like a 2D image where, you know, there's no shading, no shadows or anything like that. So I think I'm done there. Now let's go down to the detail. As mentioned in the last video, I really like this. This allows me to sharpen the image as well, get rid of some of this noise, this graininess. You don't want to sharpen it too much because that's just going to bring out the grain, but I am going to up this a little bit. My son's a little blurred, but that's really just how I shot the photo. So we'll just up that to 40, and now here's where the magic's going to happen. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's bring this in just a little bit more so we can see. As well, if you want to bring your image in further than the normal zoom, you just hit Command and then hit the plus key where your numbers are, and you can zoom in even further. And let's bring this noise reduction on over. Let's see what a 30 does. See, it was able to wash it out a little bit. And if you draw the picture back out, there we go. That looks a whole lot better. That looks a whole lot better. Just to put it in perspective, let's remove what I just did and see where the image is. And let's just bring back what I just did and see how it takes the image. See how much smoother it is? So it's a real cool feature that Lightroom allows you to do. If you take a raw photo, this is really good. This is another reason why I shoot in RAW, is because these options they're so much more versatile with a RAW file than they are with a JPEG file. So once again, always shoot in RAW. All it means is it's a larger file that you can mess around with a little bit more when you're using Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever editing software you might be using. A RAW photo is able to take more edits than a JPEG file. So I just like to shoot in it. Go ahead, mess around with it. You don't have to be a professional to shoot in RAW. It's just a camera setting. So just hit your little settings button inside your DSLR. Go down to where it says JPEG or RAW and just hit RAW as well. If you want JPEG, you can also, the mini cameras now come with a RAW and JPEG button or a setting, so you can shoot in RAW but as well have the JPEG file. So if you just want to quickly upload it to your Facebook, you can by shooting it in JPEG. As well, any edits that are made when you save this, you can save it as a JPEG. We'll get into that in a later video, but we're just going to continue on working with what we've got with right now. So Sorry for that one, but yeah, we just reduced the noise in the photo, and I think I'm done with the detail tab. Alright, so we've gone through the basic toolbar, adjusted our exposure and our white balance, our lights, our darks, our shadows, our highlights. And then we went over to the HSL, adjusted some of the color settings. We did a little bit of the detail, the lens corrections, which I don't believe we hit on very much in my last video. And so now we've got the photo looking good, pretty much where I want it to be. We also went up to the crop tool. We adjusted the photo so it was a little more straight instead of as crooked as I took the photo. And that's really about it that we can do with this photo right here. So once again, let's just take a look, see what we were able to accomplish with this. We go over right down here to this toolbar where you have the split screen, the little 2 Ys. This allows us to see the before and the after. So just to see how powerful Lightroom is, I mean, we took a photo that was bland, it wasn't popping, it had no color, and we were able to get this from it. So once again, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please hit like, subscribe. More videos are soon to come. Please check me out on Twitter at MetzlerOD. That's my Twitter handle. Yeah, hope you liked the video. More to come. See you soon.